Hello and welcome back to the Dude Topics podcast. I'm Colin and this is episode 8. I had to check my notes. This is episode 8 of the podcast. Stupid stuff I did as a kid, which should be kind of an epic one today, not gonna lie. I think somebody was telling me a couple days ago, somebody was talking about something. I can't even think of their story, but there's something ridiculous they did as a kid. It reminded me of a game I used to do. It was some game that they were playing that was just ridiculous. So there was a game that we used to play that I wanted to talk about. And then I started like jotting down some ideas and just like the names of some things or some things that would just spark ideas, kind of as bullet points. And I'm like, yeah, I can just ramble on about these things. And then it spread beyond that to just pretty much everything I've ever done as a kid. Not everything, but just some of these like goofy highlights. So anyway, before I jump in, do you want me to answer your question or talk about a certain topic? You can leave me a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and I will answer that soon. Or if you're watching me right now on YouTube, hit that like button, subscribe, and be sure to comment, and I will get to that. All right, so let's jump into today's topic. So, dude topic number one, which is my dude topic and really the only topic of the day, is stupid stuff I did as a kid. Like I said, so I kind of broke these down into like some categories. So, number one, games. Number two, pranks, and number three, just general vandalism, for the lack of a better term. So the first thing that I had originally jotted down, which made me think of like this original stupid game that I used to play. We called it the Cool Guys game. I don't know why. We did a lot of stuff like I grew up on a campground, so we owned a campground. We had a house on there, 26 acres or so, ponds, and constant like new people. And during weekends, especially like holiday weekends, there'd always be like, kids our age or whatever. And so we would like kind of introduce ourselves and play games. We play like flashlight tag and all this other stuff. And it was always super fun. But something we started doing, and again we called it the Cool Guys game, is we had this pool near the entrance. And I would say, I would say from the end of the pool to the main road that the campground was on, and it was a state route right off of an interstate, pretty busy road. Um, I would say it was maybe 40, maybe 50 yards. 50 yards would be the extreme end of that. Um, and But there was a big ditch from the road. There's a big ditch, and then 30 yards, 40 yards, something like that, and then the edge of the pool. And the pool had a fence around it, and on one half, or probably not quite a half, but one full side, and kind of going around the edges of the backside of the pool just to give it some privacy, was these big giant bushes, and they were huge, like 10 feet tall, just massive, thick bushes that went like all the way around. And so we used to, middle of the night, 12, 1, 2 a.m., doesn't matter. We would go out to the road and wait for a car to get super close. Not super close, but close enough where we could dead sprint from there down the ditch and up. And we had to jump into the bushes before the car would see us. Uh, so they were going sideways, but basically like we had to be in the bush before they would like basically like hit the edge, like their lights would hit the edge of the property. That was just kind of the rules. If you got caught, you were out. So yeah, that I don't know why we did that. We started doing it. My dad got pissed off because after so many times of doing that, the bushes started getting like giant like gapes in them, and yeah, wasn't good. Uh, all right. So next couple things I did, and they're not really games, but just again stupid stuff. Uh, I had a friend who was pretty wealthy growing up. His dad was a golf course contractor, and they had a great house, huge property. They had like a little like a couple hole golf course or whatever in their house. They had like a putting green in their front yard, huge wooded area. It was great. They had snowmobiles and four wheelers and all this stuff. It was great for me. Like growing up, I'd be hanging out at his house all the time as a kid. It was awesome. And but they had this big, huge basement, and we used to like we'd have all the lights off in the basement, and like I would do like just sleepovers or whatever there all the time. We'd have all the lights off, and we would be like chucking like toys at each other, like sneaking around or whatever, hiding behind things or whatever. And they had like a couch and a TV set up in there, and then like a pool table and a handful of other things or whatever. But it was big, but it was also like just a cement basement. So like he would, I wouldn't, but he would. My friend would be on roller skates and be going around. So it was insane. But again, as they're rich, and again, this was stupid. Their house was kind of up on this hill, and their property went way down. It was like 30 acres, like a, just massive property. But we used to take pop cans, like full, and we'd be at the top of that hill, and we would just chuck them as like shake them up and just chuck them down the hill as hard as we can and watch them explode. It was stupid and wasteful. Looking back on it, I was like, why would I do that? It was dumb. But also for people who know, I'm not going to give any recipes or whatever. There was a certain type of I don't even. There's some words I don't even really want to say, just for like not being like demonetized in this. But basically, it was something that you could put in an empty 2 liter bottle and shake it up a little bit and throw it, and it would blow up. We were doing that a little bit too much, and and we were on his property, and we were just doing it a couple times or whatever, being safe-ish with it. But we were chucking it into one of his ponds, and his brother, who was about 4 years older than us, and at the time we would have probably been like 12 or so, so his brother would have been around 16. Uh, Thought we were shooting guns, and he came down and had us like come up to the house, and he was like punching us in the shoulder to see like oh, like you're getting kicked back, is it, are you bruised or whatever? And it's like, yeah, you're 16 years old punching us in the shoulder, we're 12-year-olds. So yeah, it didn't feel good, but no, we were not shooting any pew pews. We were doing something probably even dumber. Anyway, as I mentioned, my friend also had like snowmobiles and stuff, and we didn't get that out very often. We live in the north, and there's a decent amount of snow, but obviously we're pretty limited on the amount of months that we could do that. And but we used to build some like little ramps or whatever, and we would be on sleds or snowboards, and we would pull each other going way too fast, hitting these ramps, and like my knees still hurt like doing like thinking about some of those things. But there was one time he lived on a gravel road, and there was one time he I was on a sled. He took me out on that gravel road. We were probably going 40 miles an hour down this gravel road, and I'm being pulled on a sled, feeling. And again, it was snow, but on you like you could feel the gravel like coming through the sled. Like that was like one of the most painful moments of my life. It was freaking hilarious, but so dumb. All right, so moving on. There's a couple pranks I want to talk about, and then just like the whole general vandalism stuff. Um, so I don't even know how I want to word this. So again, I grew up on a campground, and I worked for my dad owned it, and my parents had got divorced. My dad owned the campground separately. I worked for my dad for a couple years here and there, kind of in between jobs, like when I was in high school or whatever, I was working somewhere else, and then briefly, like during college, I was helping him out a little bit too, and really just like during Halloween weekends when it was insanely busy, he just needed some extra help. Well, last time I ever helped my dad, it was Halloween. I don't know. I was probably like 19 or so, something like that. I don't know. I think we were in college. Maybe it was even like my senior year in high school. It very well could have been. Anyway, doesn't matter. We do this like haunted hayride, and my brother and I. kind of growing up, we every year for Halloween, that was like the ending weekend or whatever. That's when the campground closed for the year until April 1st. So we would, uh, my brother and I kind of took charge of the haunted hayride aspect. So we were setting up little things or whatever, cemeteries and chainsaws and stuff like that. Obviously, taking the chain off, but we were setting up all this stuff or whatever, all these little scary stations or whatever, as the my dad was driving the wagon around on the in the tractor, filled with people, and then we jump out and scare them or whatever it is that we're doing. So we'd have, like I said, like these 5 or 6 spots set up. And over the years of like 10, 15 years or however long of doing this for, since we were like little kids, we weren't doing the haunted stuff back then, but we had slowly built up like tons of supplies for it. And we had built like all these like tombstones out of plywood and stuff. And then we would store them in our barn and bring them out the next year. Well, we had a ton of them, enough for basically like a full size cemetery. It was pretty impressive, and by full size, it was like 30 like tombstones or whatever made out of plywood. So it was funny. So I like the last couple of years I invited my friends over to help out, and they were teenagers, we're all driving and stuff, so it was easy for them to just show up there and come over and hang out and us just scare a bunch of little kids. So the very last one, and I had never, after all these years, like I had never ridden it. And so we had like spotlights or whatever set up at like certain spots. So as the wagon would get closer, we would basically like plug in the lights. The lights would come on so people could see stuff. And so the very last one, I'm like, hey guys, like if you guys can do this, like my friends, if you guys can do this, like I'm gonna ride it. Like I've never ridden this before. So like, oh yeah, go for it. So I rode it, and we get to this cemetery, and I have one of my friends, I'm not gonna name drop any names. He pulls his pants down, and they're like to his knees, and he's like half bent over. So he's basically just mooning people. But the the tombstone like falls over, then the lights come on, and it's just like shining right on his butt. And then the lights go off and he starts running. It was pretty inappropriate. I know another adult that was on there was like, you need to get him out of here. That was just inappropriate. And like, now here I am in my mid 40s, and like looking back on it, I was like, yeah, that was really stupid. But as 18-year-old kids, like it was freaking hilarious. Um, and yeah, like I can still to this day, however, 25 years later, look back, and I can still unfortunately see like his white butt running off into the woods, because like once that light went off, like his butt was still shining and he was just running into the woods like trying to pull his pants up. It was pretty funny, really stupid, but yeah, was still pretty freaking hilarious. Um one of my favorite stories was um uh, probably around the same, like so much of this crap happened when I was like 12. So my brother had, and we did a lot of martial arts growing up or whatever. We were in like karate and stuff growing up as kids, and we would always do these like competitions and promotion stuff, and we would always have to drive to all these things. And they would always have stuff where you could buy, my brother would buy like uh katanas and bows and nunchucks, stuff like that. Well, he started buying like the like ninja stars. And I woke up one morning on like a Saturday morning during the summer, and I would just hear this thud, and then like 15 seconds later, thud. I'm like, what the hell's going on? So I get up, and again, it was just my brother and I. My mom was at work or whatever, and like I said, my parents were divorced. But um, I go out, and my brother's got some plywood in the living room, like prop, like leaning up against the wall. And so he's sitting there, like just throwing this against the wood. And so he like sees me coming down the hallway. He's like, hey, check this out. So he's got his back turned towards the plywood, and he's 10, 15 feet away from it or whatever. And he does this little spin and throws it and misses the plywood, and it goes right through a window. And I'm like, oh no. So he's freaking out. Obviously, my mom's gonna be ticked. So uh we're panicking. He gets the plywood out. He's like, what do we do? And he's like, you know what? I know what we do. He saw a dead bird in the barn, like, I don't know, a couple days prior. So he goes and gets this bird. And so he carries a dead bird back from our barn. This is probably, I don't know, half a mile away. I mean, it's like literally on the other side of the property. He goes and gets it and brings it back, and he sets it on the out, like on the like the frame basically of the window on the outside. He sets it there. He gets some like fake vampire blood and drops some like little blood on like the glass. And he does think about like taking the glass from the outside, put it on the inside. But yeah, he puts like little like fake vampire blood from Halloween on the bird, on the window, and stuff like that, and like little drops of it. And when my mom gets home, he tells like, "Oh my gosh, yeah, this bird like just crashed into the window like super hard and is dead." So I don't know if she believed it or not. She did call the insurance company, so we did commit insurance fraud at as teenagers. I'm guessing like the statute of limitations has passed on this, but yeah. So insurance guy came out, I don't know, a few days later or whatever, checked it out. It was birds flying and crashing into windows is covered, so we got a brand new window out of it. And not only that, we got like a screen, we had a like a screen door, whatever, like a sliding glass door to our back, like go to like our back deck. And our dog had like kind of jumped through the screen, so like the bottom part of the screen had jumped or had kind of flipped out. So he's like, oh yeah, we'll get that replaced too, or whatever, because it was a pet accident or whatever. So yeah, we got all that covered and committed insurance fraud. Yeah, I was like 12 or so. So yeah, cool win, cool win. All right, so I don't know if that's necessarily a prank. It was just a stupid thing I did, but anyway. Then when I was a teenager, like I said, I did work for my dad, and uh, my I had some like we had a handful of other teenagers that worked there. My friends, I had another friend. Again, I'm not going to name drop anybody, but he was insanely goofy. And but there's a couple other teenagers. I think there was like four of us or so that worked there. We do outside stuff, inside stuff, cleaning the restrooms, mowing, weed eating, picking up trash. So my one friend and I, we would have to every morning go out and pick up all the trash around the campground or whatever. But then we would also be working in the store. So we would have to open it up, check in campers, things like that. So my friend who was a little insane, and there are days, especially like early in the season and late in the season, basically like April and October is really slow. It's really quiet. Sometimes there would be days in April where you would maybe only have like two or three people come in. It's a lot of like the snowbirds that would be coming through that would be going down to like Arizona and Florida and Texas and stuff for the winter, and then coming back to Ohio and New York and Canada or whatever during the summers. So it was pretty boring. And so he started calling like the 1-800 numbers on the back of like every product that we had in the store. And it was a small store for like a campground or whatever, but several rows of stuff. Shampoo and candy and all sorts of stuff. We just call them and just make up stupid stuff that would happen. Like eating way too much of the candy or whatever, or taking it, putting it in orifices that is not designed to be in, saying it gave them like anal warts or whatever, and would call this up and play it like super straight and be like, should I call like poison control or anything like that? It's so freaking hilarious. And But yeah, he would do that all the time and never got in trouble for it. I mean, this was the 90s, so a little before where you basically couldn't call people without like your number showing up. So yeah, a lot of companies thought he was taking products very inappropriately, or like drinking full bottles of shampoo and like what do I do, that type of stuff. So it was pretty hilarious. Also, like anytime he would come in, like if I was working like a morning shift and he was working like second shift, he'd come in, he'd go, like we had like a big giant jar of like penny candy. He would come in, grab it, and then dump it on me. Like just 1,000. I was like, oh my god, dude, like like like, we're there for like 10 minutes just picking up candy, but it's, I don't know, it's so stupid. But it was a little funny. So I'll give him that. All right. And then finally, like section three or part three of this is just like, for lack of a better term, called like general vandalism or whatever. So um starting out with just like toilet papering, like most teenagers like just went out and toilet papered like crazy. But like I said, we grew up on this campground, and like the back side of the property there was like this kind of like a back road or whatever, with houses, every few acres or whatever, every like 2-3 acres. And we used to like walk up and down that road like during the weekends or whatever, and just and most of those people, like, we didn't even know. But where we had like a huge advantage is we definitely stole toilet paper from the campground, and with them being like big public restrooms or whatever, like we would get like the big, huge, like giant industrial size rolls or whatever, and like chuck, like you had to like toss those over your head backwards to like really get them up in trees, but they would last forever. So we could get like a couple of those, and then just a couple like regular rolls, and then just go like toilet papering like crazy. It was insane. But again, like a lot of fun. But when I would go out with like friends or whatever, I know there was one for one of my friends' birthday parties, and there was like 8 of us that had went out one night, and I want to say it was a friend's cousin. I didn't know the person. They were a couple years younger than me in school. But one of my friends knew them, and they're like, "Oh yeah, they're right there. They've got a bunch of trees. We can go." So we were there. We had kind of parked behind their house on a street and walked through somebody else's property to get to theirs. And we were toilet papering their back. I'm like, well, we got to go to the front. So I went around the front, and there was a couple other trees. So I was there by myself. Everybody else was in the backyard, and all of a sudden I saw like lights come on in the house. And so I kind of like walk around like the back or like the side of the house. And there I could see one of my friends. It was the same friend that grew up, that he had like the big, huge house and the snowmobiles and everything like that. Same one. He was sitting there lit up because like they had like their back deck lights on or whatever, and just shining down like right on him. And the guy came out and was like yelling and screaming at him or whatever. It was so funny. So while he's getting yelled at, everybody else had like ran, but this one particular friend had just got caught. So it looked like he was taking the fall for everything. That's like, so while he's getting yelled at, like I walk back to the front yard and I just keep toilet paper and just keep going. So it was so funny. I can still see him to this. He's just sitting there like looking up at the guy because he's on that deck or whatever. It was so funny. All right. Anywho, sorry, my dog came into the office and wanted to say hi, I guess. And there was another time that we had went out, and uh a friend of ours had got caught, and he had the guy that we were toilet papering said that he was going to take him home. So we have no idea what happened or whatever, like if this is actually true. But knowing the guy, I believe it. He was a year or two younger than us in school, but just kind of in our friend group or whatever. Really intelligent kid, is actually a college professor now. So looking back on it, it's hilarious. But he had got caught, and the guy told him, he's like, "Well, I'm going to take you home and drop you off at your house," because he's clearly like 13 years old or whatever at the time, 14. So we had taken him, or so we had like hid in the car, And he told us like the next day, like the guy, he's like, I'm not going to take him to my house. So he's like, we got within like about a mile and stopped, and he just pointed out some other house, thinking like the guy was just going to drop him off. He would drive away, and then he could just walk to his house. Well, he started like walking towards this total stranger's house, and the guy was just sitting there like waiting for him to go inside. Got to the door and opened it and went inside. Total stranger's house. Again, this was like all pre-camera stuff. This is the 90s. Like nobody's got Ring doorbells or anything like that yet. So he went inside and sat there and like looked out. There's like it was like a glass door window type of a thing. So was waiting. The guy drove away immediately as soon as the door opened. So went inside, shut the door, and then waited for the guy to go, opened the door, and walked back out, and then walked home. Said, nobody ever said anything. He didn't hear anybody in the house. So he's like, I'm assuming they were sleeping. Like I was trying to be as quiet as possible, like opening the door, praying that it would open, but went in some stranger's house and hid for a second, and then and then went back out and walked home. So freaking crazy story. Um, and then yeah, two last stories here. Related to all that, like just going out with friends and toilet papering and stuff. We did some like sign stealing or whatever. No like stop signs or anything crazy like that, just because that is really dumb. But we were taking like for sale signs and all that stuff, and we would dump it in friends' yards or put a whole bunch of like for sale signs in friends' yards and stuff like that, just to be funny and goofy. Um, but there was a period of time where we weren't doing anything with it. We were just like going out, having fun after like football games or whatever, and going and taking all these signs. It might be signs on the side of fields that was like Pioneer or whatever. I don't even know what it is, but we were taking those, and we would have like just thousands. Anything we would see that we could grab, we were grabbing, and we would be loading it up. And there was one occasion, and one of my friends, I don't think I've said anybody's name. Hopefully I didn't, but I had one friend who had a truck, and he did a lot of the driving for us. Some of us may not even had a driver's license when he was doing this because he was the oldest, but uh, we had one night filled it up almost to the top of like the bed of the truck, and I was riding in the back, and he had taken a curve, and I almost rolled out. Like it was that like high up, where like I'm laying on like grabbing each side of the truck bed, like holding on for dear life. So that was crazy. And then I know like we had taken there was one guy who I think was extremely sheltered. We had went out with him one night, and poor kid like had never done anything crazy in his life, and you could tell like he was like almost like just taking it out. Like he just needed some stuff to get out. Well, so we're going out, and I think we were driving to like my house or something, and we were talking to him about like all this crap we had been stealing, and he's like, well, I want to take something. So we were like, oh, okay, what what do you want to do? So he found like as we were just driving, he's like, oh, let's get that. Wasn't a sign. It was literally a big giant like plastic trash bin. Like the ones that with like the lid that closes with wheels or whatever. And we're like, why the heck do you want that? He's like, I just want to take it. So he jumped out and grabbed it and chucked it like in the back of the bed, and it hit and it rolled and broke my friend's windshield, or not windshield, but the back window of his truck. It's like, oh my God. And he ended up paying for it, but it's like, dude, like freaking crazy. And then last story that I have, not so much vandalism, but my brother. I don't think I've really shared this story much, but my brother would have been 16, just just getting in between summer of like a sophomore and junior year, was driving. So I was like 4 years younger. Well, we were making these little smoke bombs with like gunpowder and filling up little plastic cups, putting like tape in them, or sorry, like a little wick string on them, and putting like tape over it or whatever, and lighting those. Well, we were making these little smoke bombs. We thought they were cool. So we were showing a friend one time, like, oh yeah, watch this. Well, he ended up filling up like a spray paint bottle thing with with gunpowder, and put the wick that he used was a sparkler, and he had lit the sparkler and was going to set it down, and it hit the powder and blew up in his face. And yeah, dude had like second, third degree burns on his face. Ruined his favorite like tank top. He's wearing like the Cincinnati Reds tank tops. This was my brother. And but yeah, dude looked like Swiss cheese, like melted cheese, not Swiss cheese. Looked like melted cheese for a good solid week or whatever. Was in the burn unit at Children's Hospital, and yeah, was a flipping crazy story. But he's totally fine now. I think he still has like this ring around his neck or whatever from like where the shirt was and where the flash burn was. But I mean, you can't tell anything nowadays. But yeah, had to spend his like whole summer with like hat on. He couldn't go out during certain times, like when the sun was brightest. Had to wear sunglasses and a hat, and massive sunscreen and stuff like that. So was pretty freaking crazy and really dumb. Don't mess with stuff with that, like that, kids. I wanted to say that one just for the sake of that one, but yeah, was a pretty crazy story. I think he still has like some pictures or whatever, but yeah, pretty nuts. All right, so that is it for me today. So be sure to comment. Let me know how like any stupid things you did growing up or as a kid. Leave those 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and for a guarantee for me to answer it or talk about it. And or like and subscribe, comment on YouTube if you're watching on YouTube. Until next time, later.